Okay, we had the new parts come through from the factory. We'll get them on the car ahead of FP1.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 2018 career mode, episode number 26 today for the Spanish Grand Prix in Season 2. If you guys did miss the previous one and the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, the usual chaos at Baku, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. But we come here to Catalonia then with our two upgrades, the major engine update and then the minor front downforce. There is going to be some rain for the race, so it's going to make things very interesting this weekend. You know, last season we had rain in qualifying, and this is kind of the flip kind of spectrum. We got a dry quali in session, but going into this one, not only upgrades for us, but you can see for the first time now this season, pretty much every single team bar, it looks like Red Bull, Mercedes, have upgraded this weekend. You can see, starting from the bottom to the top, you can see Williams and Toro Rosso have finally got off the mark. Sauber were ahead of them for 2 races, but now Williams have got back ahead of Sauber. Toro Rosso pretty much level pegging with Sauber at the bottom. You can see Force India and Renault switching places in the kind of established midfield, and then McLaren are rapidly closing up on the top fight. So that's exactly what I wanted to happen, in terms of just to make everything really even more interesting and more competitive in the top end for the top 10, to see a 5th team added. So maybe next episode, if McLaren make further gains, literally it could be an actual top 5 team fight for you know, the top 10 positions, which would be really, really exciting there. So you can see McLaren so close to Mercedes now, who are yet to upgrade this season. Mercedes just a flat line of turquoise there. Red Bull, you can see after their upgrades at Baku, have not upgraded this weekend, and then Ferrari pretty much have the exact same steep upward curb as ourselves coming off from Baku to Catalonia. So Ferrari and myself with updates, so it's going to be very intriguing to see how things play out here around Catalonia. Obviously, you know, a pre-season testing circuit, so a place where a lot of cars, you know, find out what the kind of pecking order is like. So curious to see if this is really going to shake up things, and also really kind of marks maybe the start of rapid upgrades now for the AI. I mentioned before, I think in the last episode, or maybe 2 episodes ago, about maybe the AI were waiting to actually build up R&D points, because of course all of us are getting quite deep into our R&D trees, because there wasn't a major reset into Season 2, unlike some of you guys maybe have experienced in your own career modes. I got quite lucky in that kind of way, but obviously it means that we're all kind of doing big updates, and so you saw here, I mean, those were quite big leaps for teams like McLaren and Ferrari and myself, quite a big angle up on that performance chart line. So maybe we'll see now, going to the European part of the season, some, you know, rapid upgrades coming for every single team, every single race maybe, and if so, it's going to be very interesting, intriguing to see how that all shapes up for the actual title fight, and also just generally the championship and the pecking order every single race. But let's get into then qualifying and see how we do against everyone over a 1-lap pace. All right, Ryan, let's get into it.
Today's qualifying session is about to start here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia, and what a cracker of a session we're expecting it to be. And as we wait, poised for the start of what will hopefully be a thrilling qualifying, why don't you tell us, Anthony Davidson, about the things you can do to really get the most out of a car in a session like this?
So I mentioned it was going to be kind of a vice versa kind of scenario to last season here at Catalonia. It's going to be raining in the race apparently at the start, and then getting drier. But in qualifying, it's all dry. But you can see, I guess, the rain is on the way in Sunday, because we've got a very gloomy, overcast condition for qualifying. You can see in Q1 having a bit of trouble with the car then to turn 1. Went a bit too deep into turn 1, compromised my line through the next right-hander on turns 3, but still did a good enough job to get through into Q2, of course. I mean, that wasn't really a worry. But again, Magnussen pulling out the stops in the first part of qualifying, where it doesn't really matter, but he goes top of the session, so I'll give him some confidence there. The Red Bull's looking very good around here, actually. So surprisingly, you know, despite Red Bull not upgrading since Baku then, and Ferrari the ones making the big step forward, Red Bull's still looking good around here. Obviously, Catalonia, it's an all-round circuit. There's a reason why it's a pre-season circuit, but also at the same time, you do need a decent amount of downforce to, you know, pull through, obviously, the high-speed corners. So Red Bull, I think, should be going well. That might be well and truly the guys who are really challenging at the top this time, unlike maybe Mercedes, who are, like I said, yet to make an upgrade this season. So I don't know when on earth they're going to do that. It's going to be very peculiar to see when they actually come up with some updates this season. But anyway, we're in Q2 now on our run. A little bit wide here and there, but generally a tidier lap than we did in Q1. So hopefully going to get us comfortably up into the top 10. We're on super softs because there's no point trying something fancy on the tyre strategy, because obviously it is going to be forecast to rain. Obviously, if the game screws me over and it doesn't rain at the very start, then I'll be kicking myself and then try something different. But at the moment, if the forecast is accurate, there's no point trying something funny with, soft tyres here in Q2, unlike was the case last episode. So you can see there, myself and Magnussen really well matched there. And so into the top 10, it's going to be, looks like there's a shock outing for Valtteri Bottas then. And so the two Finns struggling a little bit, Raikkonen on soft tyres, Bottas on soft tyres. And so Bottas has tried something clever, which, like I just said, he didn't need to. And so he's out of the top 10. Very interesting to see Alonso, Sainz, and Hülkenberg into the top 10 on pure merit and pace there. Obviously, Bottas would have been ahead, but that would have just put Kimi in the drop zone. So, very intriguing. So, it looks like definitely the McLarens and even the Renaults have made a good step forward, even though Renault are very much in the midfield battle with Force India. You can clearly see the step up they've made, at least this race, because they're right there with Fernando Alonso. We're moving our focus onto the top 10 shootout then. I think just like we had at Azerbaijan, good chance to get in the top 3, being on a roll now. China, Baku, and now hopefully we can make it 3 out of 3 here. The Spain have been, on the second row minimum, but at the moment there, a little bit of a mistake. Went a bit too wide there. Wanted to try and go on the throttle a bit too early on that right-hander, so that's going to lose us a bit of time and generally momentum around the lap as well. Obviously, of course, the grass gets stuck on the tyre a little bit, so we go across the line. At the moment, Ricciardo's only set a lap time there. As we go back to the garage, we're P6 there. Magnussen ahead of us in P4. Vettel, Hamilton. Surprised the Red Bulls haven't turned up quite as much as I thought there. So at the moment, once again, it looks like at the top end, it'll be the usual suspects of Sebastian Vettel, Hamilton. Let's see if myself and Magnussen can improve any kind of way in this second run. Then, of course, we haven't wasted tyres, so me and Magnussen get 2 runs here on the Super Sauce. And you can see without the mistakes here in Sector 1, we're going to pull back that time quite a bit here through the right-hander as I don't dip my tyre on the grass. I'm going to pull through that gain in time right to the end of the lap. Then you can see still green on the right hand side and plenty of tenths gain there on this lap. So P6 at the moment. What will it be across the line? This will be the end of this session then until we wait for the little indicator to come up on the left hand side, and it's going to be P4 then in the Spanish Grand Prix, and it's going to be pole position though for my teammate Kevin Magnussen. He has got pole position in the Haas. What a great showing there for K-Mag. I went a little bit slow. I left a little bit of time on the table, I think, compared to my Q2 lap time, but definitely, obviously, I needed to just crucially improve from my first run in Q3, but Magnussen has held his nerve, and when it mattered most in the top 10 shootout, he's pulled it through, and so this is really now, the start, obviously, last race, the last 2 races, we've been thinking, now the car is showing where it's meant to be, and now here Magnussen, with the 1-lap pace, pole position, that shows where we truly are now with this car. Vettel second place, Hamilton third, so the usual suspects there in the top 4 pretty much, and Red Bull surprisingly did not turn up at all there, and they're way down in the top 10 compared to where they were in Q2 and Q1. So it's going to be a very intriguing Spanish Grand Prix now. My teammate on pole, we're there in P4, and sandwiched in between us are our 2 rivals pretty much right now in the championship, Vettel and Hamilton, and it's going to be raining apparently for the start of the Grand Prix. So I think everyone on their tippy toes, and it's going to be a very intriguing first few laps there. Let's see how it goes. Let's go to the intro and let's kick it for the Spanish Grand Prix.
What does the Spanish Grand Prix have in store for us today, I wonder? I hope we see some tight wheel-to-wheel action down the main straight, circa Mansell and Senna way back in '91, or maybe we'll have a more strategic race here on a track where overtaking can be difficult. It's 730 metres from pole position down to a slippery turn 1 here, the first of 16 corners around this 2.89-mile racetrack. The long, wide turn 3 and the uphill right-hander of turn 9 can both be taken full throttle in the right conditions, but I doubt very much we'll be seeing any of that today. Anthony Davidson joins me again for the race today. Let's talk about Haas. We have a number of changes to the aerodynamic regulations this year, and the signs haven't looked good for them so far in terms of getting to grips with those changes.
There are a few downcast looks within the team this weekend. I think they've been hit fairly hard by the new regs, but this is only the first step down a long road of development, and even if they don't maximise their points today, there are plenty more up for grabs this season.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. A fantastic effort from Kevin Magnussen yesterday puts him on pole position, and starting alongside in P2 is Sebastian Vettel. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, the engineer, Kimi Raikkonen and Verstappen, Ricciardo, Alonso, Hülkenberg and Carlos Sainz, Bottas, Van Dorn, Sergio Perez and Ocon, Leclerc, Gasly, Brendan Hartley and Marcus Ericsson. Stroll and Sergei Sirotkin rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Getting into Sunday then, as we mentioned, it is going to be raining at the very start of this Grand Prix. So, you know, again, really no use for the likes of Raikkonen and Bottas, who qualified in Q2 on soft tyres then, as we all start on the green wall intermediate tyres. But you can see it's not going to be raining the entire race, so it's not going to be a bit of a dull drag, kind of a drawn-out one, because it is going to get dry eventually. It looks like maybe halfway through the Grand Prix, so it's just about survival really here and seeing if we can maybe take any chances if some people make mistakes ahead of us. But let's get into this then. From pole position for our teammate Kevin Magnussen in P4 on the grid here to 5 red lights, the Spanish Grand Prix, and we're underway, and it's a good start for us actually compared to Hamilton. Magnussen a little bit slow. Vettel might have a run into turn 1. We're just going to try and keep ahead of Kimi Raikkonen, but he's kind of persistent there on the left hand side, and a little bit of contact was made, I think, into turn 1 as Vettel now tries to fend off Hamilton, and Hamilton shoves him off there, and we made some contact with Vettel. We just about keep the car on the road there. Vettel being squeezed out by Hamilton. He affected us then, and he actually moves a little bit left to kind of cover us off there a little bit, and so Vettel's really getting the elbows out. Now his teammates down my inside. We have to do some defending work against the second Ferrari there, but we almost could have tanked that car into the wall then, and we wouldn't have even made turn 3 there. So Vettel made some contact with us. Thankfully, we did keep it under control, but at the moment, it is still, thankfully, Kevin Magnussen, our teammate, still in first place from Hamilton now, who did excellently in the first 2 turns to push off Vettel, and he's up into P2, but you can see there we are now right up the chuff of Vettel. So I think the Ferraris, or at least Vettel, is struggling for some grip at the moment because Raikkonen's keeping up with me. So I don't know if Vettel's not liking these conditions at the moment. Let's see as we move on now later into the race, just 2 laps later on towards lap 3, and Magnussen going fastest of all, obviously, and you can see on the minimap actually he's streaking away from Hamilton there on the minimap. He goes into turn 1 now, and then it takes like 2 seconds then for Hamilton to get into turn 1. So Magnussen doing a great job, and good to see that the car seems to have pure pace here. I am still finding my feet a little bit, but slowly but surely we are finding that confidence here in these conditions. I mean, we did really well here last season in these conditions in qualifying, so no reason why we shouldn't be good in the race as well. Just about adjusting to the fuel load, obviously. But here we go now on to lap 4. Obviously no DRS in these conditions, but a rich mix overtake mode. But yellow flags up ahead. It's Hamilton. Hamilton's got an issue there, and so as we go to maybe overtake Vettel, there's yellow flags. I'm unable to overtake Vettel until we get to the apex of turn 1, but then it's too late there. Might have been able to keep it in there side by side, but in hindsight you can see a lot of things. But Hamilton is out of his second Grand Prix in a row then. Remember, he had a massive engine failure at Baku, and now, well, it's not, it might be an engine failure, but it was definitely a less spectacular one, as there goes Magnussen with already a big gap to Hamilton anyway. Then he slows down on the main pit straight. I didn't see this because Vettel was in my way blocking the view, so I almost crashed into the back of Hamilton there, and Hamilton almost takes out Raikkonen as he tries to park up there on the right hand side, but Hamilton out with a mechanical failure, and so Red Bull not the only team with reliability issues in season 2 then. Hamilton out of his second race in a row. That's going to be really bad news for him, and of course compared to both Hasses of myself and Magnussen, that's going to be a big hit for Hamilton, the Drivers' Championship, and also Mercedes in the Constructors, as Bottas are the only one flying the flag. But now here we go now, we could make it even one better on Sebastian Vettel. We close up with Rich Mix, ERS going on overtake mode. Here we go to the left hand side. Vettel defends the inside line there. He's doing a really good job, but mid-apex we find the grip around the outside, but he's going to pinch us to the left then, and again in the same corner as lap 1 we get oh so close to making contact round the outside though of turn 3, trying to find the grip, but here goes Vettel trying to squeeze us. He's actually made contact with us. I said it's all getting very, very frosty now with Sebastian Vettel. We go to the sector 2 and he defends his line on the outside. I'm not ready for it, and we lock up. We're off circuit in the gravel trap, and we're going to lose I think 4 or 5 positions there as Fernando Alonso just about narrowly doesn't smash us in the front wing. I'm kind of glad there because I kind of came back on a little bit dangerously, I can't lie, but Alonso then gets ahead, the 2 Red Bulls ahead of Ricciardo, Verstappen, and then Raikkonen, Vettel, but it was already getting a little bit heated there with some contact. But then I don't know what it was really into sector 2. I'd really assumed that Vettel was going to take the inside line to defend, but instead he swiped to the racing line, which he can do, but I wasn't ready for it because he did it so late, and then I almost smashed into the back of him. I had to kind of brake quite harshly, and in doing so I just locked up in these conditions. Obviously in the dry I might have not locked up, I would have got away with it and would have just kept on the outside line and gone a little bit wide to that next right-hander, but in these conditions I just locked my front front tyres, went straight on into the gravel trap there. Could have been a lot worse, to be fair, because if I hit Vettel that would have been a lot worse because I would have lost downforce then at least I didn't break any bit of my car. I can continue on now. You can see taking the fast lap the Grand Prix now as we go and overtake Fernando Alonso back up into P6 then on lap 7. So it's taken us 2 laps then to recover back into this position at least and try and find our groove on the circuit. And you can see a little bit annoying really, because with this pace, that was the pace of my car in some free air as I try to catch Alonso. Of course, that entire time I was being held up by Vettel trying to make a pass. So a little bit really quite annoying actually, because if I had passed Vettel then, if I showed that similar pace, I could be right on the back of Magnussen right now for the race lead. It would have been a lovely 1-2 for Haas, and we would have been battling 2 Haas's for the lead of the Grand Prix. It would have been spectacular, but no, at the moment, we've got a recovery drive to do. At the moment, my engineer now is talking about coming in for the dry tyres, so it still looks quite overcast, but the DRS is enabled, so generally on the F1 game, that is when you know it is time for dry tyres usually. So we're going to come in this lap. We're not too sure if one of these Red Bull cars and the Ferrari of Vettel or my teammate is going to come in. Let's see. It looks like my teammate is coming in on the mini-map, and I have to come in. I don't want to stay out there. It's too dry now, so we're going to have to double stack, but I think there should be enough of a gap that I won't get held up too much. Obviously, it's impossible not to get held up a little bit, but I think I'm slowing down a little bit as we go intentionally into the pit lane to try and give myself a little bit of a gap and a buffer there. So hopefully Magnussen's actually out the pit box by the time I come down the pit lane, but Alonso's in, I think Vettel's in as well, and then one of the Red Bull cars, I think the other Red Bull stays out, of course, so we're in, and yeah, there's a little bit of a delay there, but not too much. So Alonso comes in, obviously ahead of us on the pit box there, but you can see we've not lost a position. We lost a little bit of time then to the Red Bull car, or if I think that was Verstappen who's come in. Yeah, Verstappen and Vettel. And you can see, oh, very, very slippery still as we come out in the pit lane there. So you can see it's just about time for the dries. Maybe that other Red Bull Ricciardo is still going to be okay on Inters as well as Raikkonen, but a little bit slippery. But I had to come in, I felt, because my engineer called me in. I thought it was the right call there. And so now we're trying to get the confidence here on the track, trying, suss out where the grip is. Usually on the racing line is obviously these F1 cars like Hoovers almost in these kind of conditions, chucking up the water off the rear end. So hopefully try and find the dry line and trying to get away from Fernando Alonso and look ahead as Sainz is in then as well, and Ricciardo's in, but he's way ahead of us then. So we've got a lot of catching up to do, and once again we find ourselves in clean air trying to catch up to cars. So it looks like it's Ricciardo, Verstappen, I imagine Raikkonen, Vettel, and then Magnussen, who set to pass after the Grand Prix, going really well. Then it's Vettel, so you can see as the track dries up, everyone is finding time around the circuit. I go purple. I imagine everyone's going to be setting purple lap times for the next couple of laps, really, honestly, as we all find the grip in these dry conditions. So it's just a case of trying to get our head down ready and try and catch up to the cars as there's a car off, and Ricciardo, oh my god, Ricciardo nearly swipes across us, and we literally, by an inch, a pixel nay, we avoid Ricciardo. He's out the Grand Prix. What on earth has gone on there? Raikkonen now is ahead of us, so I think that was Raikkonen who was off circuit maybe, made contact with Ricciardo, and Ricciardo's out of this Grand Prix. Don't know how much damage he had from Raikkonen, but maybe he just retired after being pulled up there. But it looks like it's Verstappen trying to go down the inside. It's a bit of a bad camera angle, to be honest, so thanks Codemasters. But Ricciardo comes in and smashes off his left front tyre there. So on board, looks like, I think Verstappen's down the inside of Raikkonen here at the moment. Raikkonen locks up, comes back on circuit, and that is such bad timing for Ricciardo. But that is dangerous driving from Raikkonen. Raikkonen, I think, should be given a penalty for that, to be honest, because he should have just gone onto the escape road, because the way he's come so aggressively back onto the racing line and just basically no-scope Ricciardo out of this Grand Prix is really quite bad. But you can see on the replay there, I got literally, I'm not even joking, a pixel away from smashing into the front right of Ricciardo, and that would have been my front left tyre cleanly off there. So I counted my lucky stars now twice. I could have had a front wing off with Vettel, and I could have obviously also just smashed off my wheel there with Ricciardo. So it's been a very interesting Grand Prix, to say the least, at Spain so far. But here we go now. The fake to the left, down to the right, down the inside of Raikkonen, who's a little bit slow at the moment after that contact with Ricciardo. I don't know if he has sustained any damage on his front wing, but now we've got past him, and Fernando Alonso is right on the back of his old Ferrari teammate then. So Alonso in the improved McLaren this race, can he make a move now? Raikkonen goes defensive, and Alonso the long way round into Sector 2. Not a usual place to make a pass on the outside, but Alonso's trying it. Raikkonen, though, keeps the racing line, but he's obviously got issues here at the moment, as I got past quite quickly, and Alonso really fancies it soon enough. He might have to wait a little bit longer, though, as we go to later on to the Grand Prix. Onto the pit straight, Alonso with DRS, and of course the McLaren these days in Season 2 of this career mode doesn't have a too shabby of an engine as well on the back of that car. So here he goes on the outside, bit of an awkward camera angle once again, but round the outside Alonso will go into Turn 1, and he's got his old former teammate, and he's up the order. Great to see there. And so the McLaren, as it improves and improves, I'm hoping we'll be seeing more of that in more cases later on this season. It'll be great to see a top 5 scrap between 5 different teams. all in 5 different colours. It'd just be quite nice, wouldn't it? But as we move on through this Grand Prix, then setting the fast half of the Grand Prix on lap 15, just trying to get the head down really now for the first time properly. I tried to when I tried to pass Raikkonen and Ricciardo there, but obviously they had a bit of a kerfuffle. But as we go on through this Grand Prix, then lap 20, and now Magnussen, Vettel and Verstappen are in for their final pit stop of the Grand Prix. We're going to continue on for 2 more laps, because you saw there I set another purple time, so I'm finding more and more pace here. And like I said, I had time on the table in Q3 that I may have, been able to challenge for pole, but obviously the things just didn't come together sometimes for you. That's the way Formula 1 works always. You can't really get it perfect every single time. And so I feel like, we've got some good pace that, dare I say it, we can come back and maybe even fight the likes of Vettel, depending on what the gap is. But I definitely have my eyes at least on Max Verstappen to see. But, really, honestly, if Vettel fights Magnussen maybe for the race lead, then if they hold each other up, we could maybe even go for the win. Let's see. But as we move on now from our pit stop, there goes Verstappen there. We've got the Force India, though, unfortunately, to contend with there. I think he might be trying a one-stop maybe, or is just yet to pit in this Grand Prix. So we come out behind Esteban Ocon, then we've got to pass him before then having a bit of clean air. We've got yellow flags up ahead, and that will be for, I think, a Williams car of Sirotkin there, so having a bad time the rush. Looking at the minimap, you can see Verstappen, Vettel and Magnussen's dot there on the bottom left, and Magnussen isn't too far ahead of Vettel there, so there's a bigger gap from Vettel to Verstappen, I think. So if Vettel maybe attacks and pressurizes Magnussen, there could be a chance they slow each other up maybe. We'll have to see, though. We'll have to get to that bridge, we'll have to cross that bridge once we get to it. I'm trying to mix up my words, trying to find the correct way to say that, but as we close up then on Ocon, we have to do the job first of overtaking him, and then closing up to the Dutchman there, who we know is always going to be a little bit difficult to pass. But here we go now with DRS. We're going to set it down to Lee Mixture there for a second and get to non-ERS, because actually Ocon locks up there. I was going to say I was getting prepped for Sector 3, because Sector 3 basically is where I personally try and save all my ERS and also the fuel as well. I don't know, some of you guys might try other places, but for me, Sector 3 is the best way to do it there. But thankfully, Ocon, for me, struggles on those tyres and locks up and lets us through quite easily. So now, here we are then. Taking us 3 laps of pushing flat out, but we're here now behind Max Verstappen, able to try and maybe make an overtake on this lap 25. The crucial thing, though, for us is Verstappen appears to be on medium tyres there. We're on softs, obviously, so we went 2 laps longer, and that's allowed us to be on soft compounded tyres. So really, we should be making this pass pretty easily, maybe, because we've got the extra grip compared to Verstappen. So here we go now. No DRS here at the moment as we try and make a move on the right-hand side. Down the inside we go, and Verstappen's locked up there. And so we went down the inside at the perfect time, actually, because I was going to try and go around the outside. At the last minute, though, I saw Verstappen going a little bit slow, kind of as we entered the brake zone. So I went to the left-hand side, tried to maybe catch him out of surprise there. I don't know if doing that made him kind of a bit scared and shocked and made him lock up on the front left. But that really worked out quite perfectly there. And so we're up into P3, and now we can try and chase after Vettel. But you can see Vettel on the top left also on medium tyres. And I suspect also Magnussen is also a medium. So all these guys picked like 2-3 laps earlier than me. And so they've kind of shot themselves in the foot almost with being on harder compounded tyres. And I can tell you from practice, the medium tyre doesn't really feel too good around here, especially when it's colder conditions like this is at the moment here on Sunday. So I'm feeling good about this. And so we just need to get our head down again, and we'll just see what we can get. But of course, at the moment, we're back to our original position of P3 behind Vettel. But Vettel now on lap 28 is attacking Magnussen there. You can just about see up ahead of us. I think Vettel was trying it around the outside as we enter Sector 2. Magnussen's been able to defend him, but Vettel is right up his gearbox there. And so this might be a 3-way scrap then for the race victory. Very, very interesting. So it looks like, earlier in the intermediates, Magnussen was getting away from Vettel, setting purple times, when it was raining. So the Haas, our car was performing really well, but in dry conditions, just like in real life almost, the Ferrari is playing a lot better in the dry there. So just like real life, we've seen so many times before already, Germany, Spa so far, that the Ferrari maybe doesn't like the wet conditions as much as its rivals here. And so in game, looks like the Haas, obviously a very lightweight chassis, nimble on its feet maybe. It's just got that extra edge in the rain, but in the dry, the Ferrari can get its advantage, power down and downforce down. And Vettel now is closing up on Magnussen, but equally so, we're closing up on him. So Vettel might be looking ahead, but he's also going to look behind in the mirrors soon enough as we move on now towards the last 4 laps of the Grand Prix. And we're trying to save some ERS. I'm trying to tactically always try and save ERS in the corners and in Sector 3 especially, and try and save it for the first sector here as we close up. Speaking of the first sector, we do a lot of good work there on lap 30, and we're right up the gearbox now. Vettel, we get oh so close. there to his rear end there. Lock up on the front left tyre, but we straight on the car a lot faster. And we've got a beautiful exit. We're in overtake mode now. We're going to take this opportunity to try and overtake him if we can. Round the outside into the high-speed chicanes we go, dipping down before we go up the crest, up the hill, into Sector 3, open the DRS and the exit, and we're past Sebastian Vettel fair and square even before we get to this DRS zone there. Absolutely awesome. You know, it turned into a great place to pass there after initial lockup, but I just straight up the car a lot faster, and the car just picked up traction like nothing against Vettel. Bumped up into overtake mode, obviously got the straight line speed then in 7th and 8th gear and was able to do it, but at the moment we've got a bit of an issue now because we're a bit lower fuel. You can see I've gone down to lean mixture and onto low ERS because my fuel gauge is nearly at 0, so we are going to run out of fuel at this race. We need to be careful, but at the moment we've got the measure of Vettel, but we've got 3 laps left, and to be honest I want to try and look ahead and see if we can fight my teammate for the race victory. It's just a case of hopefully having enough fuel and ERS to get away from Vettel and actually try and push on and attack Magnussen if we can. As we move on now towards the second last lap of the Grand Prix, Vettel had stuck with me here unfortunately. We're bumping up into overtake mode after saving quite a bit of ERS at the same time as well, trying to save fuel, but Vettel has DRS on me and he's going to close up. Is he going to make a move into turn 1? I wonder. We have to do some defensive work here now, so instead of looking ahead I'm looking behind. Vettel round the outside, he goes there, but we should have the better line around the outside of the second corner, and Vettel can't keep it there, and we will keep P2. And on this second last lap of the Grand Prix I decide, you know what, screw it, I might run out of ERS by the end of the race, but let's just bump it up then into high at the end of this lap and go for it. So we're going to do a last bit of ERS saving here in low and none, and also save a bit of fuel as well. But now as we move on to the last lap of the Grand Prix, I'm just going to stick it up into high, maybe even hot lap mode actually, and also use a bit of rich mix when we can. And let's try and see, because we are closing up now rapidly on Magnussen. Obviously soft tyre V the mediums, and the tyre wear is not that bad. I'm still actually kind of puzzled why the AI have gone on to medium tyres, because softs were good enough. But here we go now, last lap of the Grand Prix. We are within 1 second of our teammate here. Hot lap mode engaged on ERS. We've got a little bit of fuel to play around with as well. We're going to go to standard and then rich a few times this lap. Let's see, the final lap of Catalonia. Can we take a last minute race victory away from my teammate who's pretty much dominated this entire race here at the moment this afternoon? Sector 1 we go purple, but I've gone a little bit too hot into the brake zone at the very end of that sector. Gone a little bit deep, and you can see big tank slapper there as I'm pushing so hard and feeling the pressure a little bit as I try and sweat away on this final lap here. So I don't want to overcook it, but at the moment a little bit over driving in Sector 1. Let's keep it calm in Sector 2 now. Nice and easy on throttle, trying to get the power down as early as we can then, and then up the hill, try and scrub off the least amount of speed there in 6th gear. Little lift off, power down, DRS open there, overtake mode on the ERS there. We close up on Magnussen, right up his gearbox, big lock up on the front left, but I just can't make it work. I wasn't near enough to make a dive bomb there down the inside, and Sector 3 is going to be the most difficult place to make a pass. So to be honest, I think it might be over here. I've tried my best on the last lap of the Grand Prix. We're going to close up and give the pressure onto Magnussen right to the end. You can see, oh my god, how close are we? This is awesome, but in the end it's going to be Kevin Magnussen that takes the win of the Spanish Grand Prix, but we come home in second place to make it a 1-2 for Haas Formula 1, the first 1-2 in their F1 history. Absolutely amazing stuff.
Great work from the Haas team. They take a famous win here today. And I have to wonder, Anthony Davidson, just what set them apart from the competition here.
Well, time management probably played quite a large role in the outcome of this one. As ever, it's not just about speed, it's all about maintaining that speed consistently over a stint, over a race distance. So being able to keep up the lap times while still being smooth on the controls and gentle on the tyres, that's really where the race was won today.
Our drivers are making their way out for the podium celebrations, and it's going to be Haas picking up the winner's trophy. Congratulations to the entire team for coming out on top in that amazing Grand Prix.
So it's a historic 1-2 for the Haas Formula 1 team, and my teammate now has our second win of his F1 career. That's 2 wins for him, obviously last season at Monaco, this season now at Spain, but we're 1 apiece on race wins this season. I won China, he won Spain, and it's looking very good. We are 1-2 in the Drivers' Championship, and Magnussen closes up by 9 points, but there's a bigger gap then from him to Vettel and Hamilton. And the constructors, speaking about gaps, there's a huge one, the constructors now, to Ferrari, who, them along with Mercedes are really lagging behind. You can see McLaren still ahead of Red Bull Racing, doing a great job there ahead of the more kind of senior Renault-powered team there, as the Works Renault now falls behind Red Bull. Sauber not too far off Force India, but a huge gulf to Ferrari. It's looking insanely good for us here as a team here in the constructors. And for the drivers, well, at the moment, I'm kind of licking my lips here and, shaking my hands up a little bit because, at the moment, it's looking like it might be a bit of a teammate scrap here. A la 2014, the two Mercedes cars going hammer and tong all season long. Dare I say, could it be a Magnussen v aarava all season long now? Because it's looking very, very good. But that's been such a fun Spanish Grand Prix. Had everything there, really. Not much else I can say. So let's go into the interview then after the race and then round out the episode.
Great work out there today. How do you think it went? You're breaking all expectations. What's your secret?
So feeling a bit cheeky there after that fun race, so I'm going to go with the tongue-in-cheek answer, the bottom one. That would be telling. Not going to tell any of my secrets there. That's not going to be any kind of sway of any kind of way.
You must be thrilled to be up on the podium.
To be honest, I was expecting it, so I'm going to go with I was expecting it. Kind of a bit of an egotistical answer, but I thought after the lap one that I definitely would have been on for a podium, actually, and we did get it in the end, obviously. Second place in there.
So talk us through what happened between you and your rival today.
It's got to be the left-hand side answer. We put on a really good show for the fans, and it's only going to get better, hopefully, the rest of this season there.
It was more like Dodgems than Formula 1 today, wasn't it?
And finally, a bit of an annoying question always when it comes up about making contact here and there. It happens with the AI car, so I'm going to go with the no comment answer. It's been a good field interview so far, so I'm going to end off on that note then and round off.
Great! Well, that's everything.
And with the interview roundup then, we're going to go to the end of this episode with the rivalry in the teammate and also Fernando Alonso. There you can see at the moment, Magnussen pips me by 1 point there on the rivalry. We're going to definitely probably beat Fernando Alonso in our rivalry, so get a good amount of respect there from beating Fernando. Obviously, a very esteemed member of the paddock. But moving into the final stages of the episode then, looking at the R&D, obviously we talked about doing tactical upgrades. We did the front downforce here for the Spanish Grand Prix, and like I said, we're going to do the major drag reduction update, which will come for the Canadian Grand Prix. So we're going to skip out an update for Monaco, but obviously a drag update for Monaco is not going to be useful. So we're going to get the drag update where it matters most at the Canadian Grand Prix, so it's going to be perfect timing for that upgrade. But apart from that, we can't afford anything else, so that one upgrade is going to be there. But curious to see then, if any other team's going to upgrade from Monaco, and we'll see how the pecking order shapes up there. But that has been a thoroughly enjoyable Spanish Grand Prix then, guys. If you have enjoyed it yourselves, smash the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And you know what? Be sure to smash the like button, guys, for a very historic 1-2 for the team here. And it's actually my teammate that ends up being the top one there. Really, really cool to see. You never saw anything like this in previous F1 games. Your teammate beating you fair and square, but you and your teammate getting 1-2s like this after you've improved the car. Because especially last year's game, when you improve the car, it was really only you as the player that actually saw the real benefit. It was very rare for your teammate to actually use the upgraded car that you've given him on the opposite side of the garage. But Magnussen is really taking this car by the scruff of the neck. He got pole and the race win today. So yeah, hit that like button for what is looking to be a very, very tasty season. And I can't wait to have a good scrap with Magnussen in the next race maybe. But till then, guys, hope you enjoy the rest of your day. If you're new around here, do get subscribed, and I'll see you guys then. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.